Yo guys, I've got a spark which I'm going to use to ignite the fire for the third day of Skylanders, where we're going to be taking a look back to a list I made years ago, one that has become very outdated not only due to my opinions having changed over the years, but also the fact that it needs a improvement upon the quality. So the old version of this list, the original, it can be found in the description below as it has been archived. But that being said, what we're doing specifically is we are revisiting Skylanders Ring of Heroes, because before the game got shut down, not only could you unlock Skylanders, but you could also go through this process called an awakening. What this did is it buffed up your Skylanders as well as it gave them a brand new design. So naturally, this list is going to be counting down what the coolest awakened designs are. So let's get to it. This list is based on how cool the awakened form of the character looks and how much the awakened form design adds to the original character design. We also have official concept art for awakened forms of characters that were planned to be added to the game, but unfortunately they never made it in before the game was shut down. So those will still count for the list because the concept art itself gives us a great first-hand look at what those awakened forms would have been and how they would compare to the original designs. As this list is purely design based, it doesn't matter how the awakened forms functioned in the game itself. That is all completely irrelevant, especially since the game can't even be played anymore. So we'll start with 10 honourable mentions so that these awesome awakened forms can at least be mentioned firsthand. And if I were to expand to the top 20 coolest awakened forms instead, then these will likely be the awakened forms that wound up being part of that list, but unfortunately they're just short for the top 10. So firstly, let's talk about Chop Chop. I love his new armour and new weaponry, but the coolest aspect of this awakened form has to be the cape. It suits Chop Chop really well and really adds a lot to his design, but not enough for him to feature inside the top 10 list in and of itself. Next there is Boom Bloom, who has these really awesome looking gems on her head, but really that's the only thing that stands out to me about this awakened form. Kaboom's awakened form has a really awesome concept behind it. The robot arm makes Kaboom seem like a fired up mechanical cyborg with a massive off cannon. That is cool, but not cool enough for the top 10, as it doesn't really add anything to Kaboom besides the mechanical arm piece. But next up is the awakened form for Smolder Dash, which actually took home the #1 spot when I originally did this list, but that was because with the original list it was during the Smolder Dash Appreciation Month. So in that original list I showcased a lot of bias towards Smolder Dash. However, bias aside, this is still an awesome awakened form. I like the new shape of Smolder Dash's crown, it's really intimidating, and it kind of reminds me of Hela's helmet from Thor Ragnarok. New weapon also looks really cool, but it's not that much of a huge upgrade from the original, at least aesthetically speaking it's not. So Smolder Dash still has an awesome awakened form, there is no denying that. I just no longer think it's top 10 worthy. As for the next awakened form, this one was actually capable of pulling off the impossible, which is to make Jetvac actually look cool. For doing the impossible alone it is worth an honourable mention. Then for T-Rex, I love the glowing green colours, they add a really nice visual contrast to the overall character, and now his antlers are far more intimidating with the sharper edges to them. This really emphasises how T-Rex is a force of nature to be reckoned with, but unfortunately this awakened form still pales in comparison to what's actually on the top 10 list. Then Washbuckler is worth an honourable mention for his hat alone, because his hat looks incredible in his awakened form. It looks like it's plucked straight from the sea, with the number of different sea creatures and sea plants that can be seen atop it. He added so much detail and made Washbuckler's character really stand out as a result. His clothing also bulks him up a bit to make him look that much more intimidating, but there just isn't enough of an expansion upon his original design to justify putting Washbuckler's awakened form on the final list. I've also put Bushwhack's awakened form into my honourable mentions because the concept artwork for it is so cool. If we ever got to see a final version of this, even if it was just a fraction as cool as this, then the awakened form would be fantastic. It adds so much to the intimidation factor of Bushwhack, and the design complements his personality very well by making him look even more like an arboriculturist. But for my final two honourable mentions, I have Rattleshake and Trigger Happy. because the outfits of their awakened forms possess many homages to the Western genre, just like the designs of the original characters. So it turns these characters into very faithful Western gunslingers through the costume design, showcasing how much thought was put into these awakened form designs. But with the honourable mentions out of the way, let's roll the intro already and then get straight into the top 10 at hand. Coming in at number 10, I have Lightning Rod. On my original list, this spot was taken up by Stormblade, so you'll notice that the air element gets to remain in the 10th spot. When it comes to Lightning Rod's awakened form, the armour has intricate carvings and a glorious golden white colour contrast, but there is more than just fantastic armour behind this awakened form. The crown is a lightning bolt shape that hovers majestically above Lightning Rod's head. It elevates upon Lightning Rod's royal aesthetic and makes his character feel like an even bigger presence, as his crown is quite kingly and has a sign of power behind it. I love how his design takes great inspiration from Lightning Rod's backstory, as he's a sporting champion of the sky, and this is how you'd imagine a champion looking as they face their fans during their most victorious moment. It's how the developers showcase their love for the Skylanders franchise by giving us these satisfying designs, confirming the passion and commitment the Ring of Heroes development team put into this game. As cherry atop the cake, the middle emblem suits Lightning Rod quite well and adds even more intricacies to his design. With Lightning Rod's awakened form, he turns from a pretty simple and basic design into something far more detailed and fun to play around with. You truly feel a sense of awe and power when playing as this character through the armour and royal presence this awakened form commands. For number 9, I've put Barbella, replacing Snapshot from the original list, who basically has a very generic and bulky looking armour with no colour contrast to it whatsoever. So by juxtaposition, Barbella has a lot more of an interesting awakened form where the colour contrast is a lot more interesting than the original character design, and it gives her entire character more appeal. Between the nimble outfit and the bandana, you can tell that Barbella is an avid gym user. This awakened design not only showcases Barbella's skills and hobbies much better than her original design, but is also more creative and unique. As this awakened form stands out so much more, it makes me wish that the figurine also possessed this same design so that Barbella wouldn't be so underrated in the games. People hardly give her a chance because she has such a boring and generic character design, whereas this awakened form stands out much better and is a much more accurate showcase of what makes Barbella so awesome. Therefore, with a figurine that looked more in line with this, I'm certain Barbella would have received more of a recognition in the main console game that she actually deserves. But as for number 8, I'm replacing Pop Fizz from the original list with one of his magic companions, Buckshot. This awakened form improves upon the original details found in Buckshot's weaponry and armour. It's so incredibly detailed, and it's a level of intricacy the developers didn't need to go into for just one character model for a mobile game no less. Really though, the only thing they added to Buckshot is the awesome armour and weaponry. They changed up its shape to make it look that much more intimidating, and it really does stand out due to the sharp colour contrasts. But since Buckshot has already an awesome looking design to begin with, you're basically adding even more awesomeness to something already awesome. The proof as to how well the final character turned out is right before your very eyes, so there naturally is no denying how incredible this awakened form truly looks. Number 7 on the original list, I put Astro Blast, so I'm replacing one supercharger in favour of another, that being Fiesta. This is a very similar scenario to Buckshot, where you had a design which already looked awesome, and they're taking that design that I already love so much, and somehow they're making it even more awesome than it was before. And that's through the details they add to the character design. The shoulder pads complement the entire outfit, which now has a sharp blue fluorescent look to it amongst a black background, so the outfit has a really contrasting look that highlights the idea that Fiesta is a skeleton by wearing a skeleton costume. So the outfit doesn't only look good, but it also has a comedic sense of irony to it. It's a great looking jacket which makes Fiesta look like a valued member of a mariachi band, which is exactly what he is. Even his hat has added details with the golden circles and spirals, making it look even cooler than it did before. His skull now has flowers added to it, so everything about Fiesta's new design adds to his reflection of Mexican culture, and it emphasizes his personality. Just like Barbella, I would have loved to have seen this as Fiesta's actual figurine instead. As we've established already, Stormblade's awaken form on my original list was at number 10, but I've grown to like this design even more over time, so now it can be found here at number 6. It's universally acknowledged that sunglasses are pretty cool. If you want to make something 10 times cooler, simply put sunglasses on it, call it a day, and you've achieved maximum awesomeness. That's what they've done with Stormblade, and it works so incredibly well paired with this design. In fact, I think I might need some sunglasses of my own right now, because I need to shield my eyes before I become blind due to raw exposure to pure awesomeness. And it's not just for glasses, it's the entire outfit, the sleek shape, the sharp blue and white colour contrast. It all emphasises Stormblade's fast-paced gameplay, and it's a great expansion upon her original design. One final thing to add is that just like everything else on this list thus far, it's admirable how much attention to detail went into this character design. It's not only the shapes but also the colours that they've chosen to do. It just makes the whole thing feel so crisp and polished. I love the way this looks, I cannot emphasise this enough. But for number 5, we're returning to concept art, because the coolest of all the official concept art for characters that didn't make it into the game has to belong to that of Dunebug. This is a character that I never before seen as intimidating, but this awaken form would prove me wrong. His armour is spiked but still shaped like a beetle. It has that sort of shape and texture to it. It's incredibly clever how it's double function as both a beetle exoskeleton and a piece of armour. The colour and shape of the staff are still clearly insect inspired due to the way how it spires off itself with the 5 different spires, like it has legs and wings. But it's the back of the awaken form which truly sells me, because the armoured wings have patterns and a sharp colour contrast to them, which frankly is just pleasing to the eyes. The diamond on the headguard and the diamond on the staff are a nice touch for the details on the character, and they look identical so that the entire design has this crisp and uniform look behind it. It's so disappointing that this design never got finalised, because my jaw literally dropped at my first sight of this concept art. Coming in at number 4 is another awaken form which has significantly improved its spot on the list compared to the original that I made. I'm obviously talking about Pop Fizz, which has moved up all the way from number 8 to number 4. What I love about this awakened form still stands. It really puts emphasis on Pop Fizz's scientific mind by giving him goggles that have an aura to them to look extra cool and detailed. The lab coat and cape have a fine attention to detail, and it's much more detailed than the original design as cherry atop the cake. Even his gauntlets on his wrist glow like his potions to make the entire character look very crisp and uniform. I truly can't fault this awaken form and how much it adds to the original design to really improve upon it and make Pop Fizz look and feel that much more like a mad scientist. But we've now made it to the top 3, and earning the bronze medal this time around is Headrush. As we've already established, I love it when awakened forms really play into the culture, profession or personality traits of a specific Skylander to emphasise the unique traits that the Skylander at hand has to offer. That's exactly what they do with Headrush, but rather than just doing it through armour, the developers took up a more interesting and creative route. Instead, Headrush garners a winter coat and a helmet with engravings on it that look like a creature's skull. It even has teeth from a creature's skull to add to that aesthetic. The winter coat also has fur, presumably from the same creature that was used to create the helmet, which she would have hunted in extreme winter conditions, just like your traditional Viking. This awakened form is creative, it has an incredible attention to detail, and it draws emphasis upon Headrush's Viking traits. This might have been one of the final awaken forms we received, but it certainly was one of the game's best. But for number 2 on the original list, I had Shadow Spyro, which is basically just Dark Mega Ram Spyro on steroids. So I've removed that from the list entirely because I find it incredibly uninspired and lazy compared to the much cooler awaken forms. Instead, taking up that number 2 spot is going to be Astro Blast, because the awakened form is that much more futuristic looking than the original. The armor is sleek and polished, lasers emit from the shoulders and hover in midair like magic. Well, more like futuristic technology than magic. But that's why Astro Blast's awakened form works so well for his character design, as it plays up the sci-fi traits of the character. He even has an emblem on his forehead, the embodiments of which are incredibly well detailed, but the shape is like a star, which is very appropriate, not only based on him being a light element character, but also the fact that it makes the character look like he's about to go supernova. It makes you feel so powerful when playing as this character. It's such a crisp and uniform look, even more so than the awakened forms we've looked at already. This awakened form stands out just because of how neat and perfect all of the shapes are. It's very much a futuristic based design, which is in sharp contrast to all the other jagged and imperfect shapes the other Skylanders possess, and that's because of the difference in all of their designs. This awakened form was designed to be different, and it excels at that. But it still can't hold a candle to the awakened design of Igniter! That's right, I was biased on the original list with Smolder Dash, and now it's time to be biased once again because any mention of Igniter gets me just giddy with excitement, as you heard from my exclamation earlier. But even putting bias aside, the awakened form for Igniter is incredibly cool. Before, his armor was a little too skinny, and that lost a lot of the intimidation factor that the design had potential for. It doesn't quite live up to what a Fire Knight could look like, but luckily the Awakened Igniter significantly improves upon the shape, detail, and intimidation factor of the original Igniter's design. A design I didn't even think could be perfected upon, but the Ring of Heroes developers proved me wrong. I love how the headguard has a 3-pronged fork embezzled upon it, and the shoulders have jagged and intimidating edges, plus a fiery glow that draws emphasis upon the strength this buffed up and stronger looking armor possesses. Igniter is a clear force to be reckoned with, and the design of this awakened form makes that fact perfectly clear. But now the top 10 having come to an end, I think it's time that I should warn you that for the 4th day of Skylands, for Skylanders Imaginator's festive special, I'm not going to be wearing my Spyro Christmas jumper. Instead, I'm going to be wearing this one in its place, because when I recorded the Imaginator's Soul Seekers festive special months ago, I had misplaced this Christmas jumper, so naturally I wore this one in its place. But that being said, obviously I'm going to see you tomorrow for the very video I've been hinting at, and until that video arises, we have an outro to see us through until then. I cannot, in good conscience, end off this video without first thanking all of my incredible channel members whose continued support help make these videos possible. Without them, these videos would be near impossible to make, so from the bottom of my heart, I truly appreciate every last one of them. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, there are plenty of options on screen now to explore, and please consider subscribing to keep up to date with all my content. On that note, this video is coming to an end, so thank you so much as always for watching. Until the next video arises, peace!